Mali are now back to diplomatic ways. According to information, the span of the rapprochement between the upper hierarchy of Algeria and Mali was moving between July and April, according to information 2026. They said a direct communication was reestablished between President Abdulmajid Tebboune of Algeria and President Assimi Goïta of Mali. Now, a diplomatic relationship that have fractured for a very, very long time. So they're back to the way of peace. They are banning war and business is going to resume. According to information, airspace is now going to reopen. Algeria fully lifts the ban on civilians and military flights to and fro from Mali. All right. So, according to further information, the ambassadors have returned. Algeria will send its ambassador to Bamako. Now, Mali have confirmed that the reciprocal measure to what Algeria has just done will also be shown to Ojas. So, Mali is now going to be sending their own diplomat too to Algiers. So, other information we have is that the Malians in Algiers that don't have the legitimate documentation, according to information, they said a regularization process for Malian nationals that are currently in Algeria without proper documentation, there is going to be some concession, all right, so that the long-standing friction can just be let slide, all right. So this is a good information. It's happening at a time where peace is needed. But, there's a saying that if you want peace, if you really, really desire peace, you definitely have to prepare for war. All right. So, what do we have and why are we talking about this information? Why is the information very, very important? Before we get into where all this problem started from, I have something that bothers me a lot about this development. Because in April, we all heard what President Abdulmajid Tebboune said via the foreign minister. Now, initially, the foreign minister of Algeria said that what was going on in Mali is expected. That was after the attack on the apartment of General Sadio Kamara. And for a seconds right there, it felt like Mali was going to break. All right. That was in April 2025. It was attacks on so many locations in Mali, and everyone was worried. But the statement that came from the Algerian Foreign Ministry was like they were cheerleading the FLA, formerly known as the MNLA, a group or a sect that has its roots fiercely embedded in the Bodbaji Mukhtar of Algeria. That's not the only thing of concern here. Everybody, after the foreign minister made that statement, everybody thought it was a joke. Maybe he was just giving his own opinion, which he has the right to make. But then President Abdulmajid Tebboune came out in April, all right? And he said, and I quote, that everything the foreign minister said is 100% with him. So President Abdulmajid Tebboune reinforced the negative statement, the complicity that was shown by Algeria. So President Abdulmajid Tebboune literally declared himself as a culprit in the destabilization war going on in the Sahel. Thank you so much, Cryptography Talk, for joining. Really appreciate it. All right. Another point, I looked at it that, well, this is now a very, very bitter relationship right now. And after the whole chaos happened, Kidal, the central Kidal city, the contest happened and there was a tactical withdrawal. And after the tactical withdrawal, Algeria didn't do anything to water the whole tension. And another attack now to capture Anafis. Ladies and gentlemen, the simple question was they came from Tinzawantin. According to By Design, thank you for joining. These rebels of the FLA that just fought in Mali, they came directly from the Tinzawantin border. There is a 2 kilometer separation between Algeria and Mali along the Tinzawantin corridor. Now, they came with all the type of capabilities you might expect. So much drones. And if I'm very, very honest with you, I will tell you that some of the military grade equipment that came into Mali, for seconds I sat down and I said, who has the wherewithal, all right, to amass this type of capability for a terrorist sect in the region? And every mechanical know-how just points at Algeria. I know all of you have heard about the story that is going on social media. I can't independently verify that Iyad Agali was harmed when his 2 bodyguards were taken out by the Russian African Corps in northern Mali. And they said he's currently taking treatment in Algeria. I can't independently verify. But the situation with the FLA right now is extremely dangerous. I have a feeling. Now, feelings don't really project reality. But I have a feeling that if Mali should march on Kidal right now, Kidal will fall. If they choose to escalate and start slamming the door of Kidal tomorrow, the maximum is 4 days and Kidal will fall. Because when you look at the human currency that was spent for Anafis, and according to the information we're getting from the Malian General Staff, they said 8,000 FLA and JNIM fell in Anafis. 8,000. Look, a lot of people don't understand what 1,000 mean. 8,000 personnel. See, if you have 20 combat kill, everybody looks at you like you're a ghost. Do you know what 1,000 is? If you amass, I'm one person. Like 1,000 is massive. And that is the personnel drain that the FLA has just recorded. And just after this heavy fighting, where the Malian seriously dealt with the FLA and they prevailed, Algeria came out of the blue and said that they are now banning the ghost with Mali. I love the peace, but if you are not worried about the timing of this diplomatic reapproachment, then it means you might be too peaceful as a person. And for you to have peace, you have to prepare for war. That is what the manuscript of security says. So, for me, before I give you the information, I kind of want to say that the reason why I feel that Algeria is making this move is that it looks as though as the Malians might take a drastic decision very soon. And if you look at the number of leaders of FLA that have been taken out recently, everything is pointing towards a negative direction for the FLA. And what is the best off-ramp that the FLA can use right now? It's Algeria. Because now with the diplomatic relationship and the fact that the Tuareg population is split between the southern border of Algeria and the northern border of Mali, Mali, with this diplomatic relationship, will not want to crush, the ferocity will not be like it should be. Because Algeria might try to start talking about peace. According to some of the information we've been hearing for some independent sources, they said, the Ojas Accord, they've not talked about it and all of that. Nobody cares about the Ojas Accord anymore. They have cancelled it. And Algeria will not try to, kind of bring a reapproachment for the Ojas Accord. Now, I do believe that Niger has played a significant role in this peace plan that have just been put in place between Mali and Algeria. But families, before you look into what is currently going on, our suspicion, what our fears are, it's better we talk about the backbone of this entire trouble between Mali and Algeria. You cannot understand the crisis without understanding the basics. For those that are coming to this platform as newbies, let me take you through what happened that has led to, because there's no smoke without fire, right? So, the border between Mali and Algeria is about 1,374 kilometers, so long, and it runs across the Sahara. It is remote, it is porous, very, very porous. In fact, according to the information we got from security analysts, they said there are no security architecture across this border. And it cuts directly through the Tuareg territory. Because from the Bod Baji Mukhtar region of Algeria to northern Mali, Tinzawantin, Tandalahak, this whole region is Tuareg dominated. Now, it doesn't mean the Tuaregs are the only one that live there. But you would definitely, out of 10, you will find 3 Tuaregs in this region. Now, the issue is that the trade routes, the tribal network has existed for a very, very long time. All right? And conflict in any of the independent Tuareg community will affect the other. Let's assume that there is conflict among the Tuaregs in southern Algeria. The Tuaregs in northern Mali will migrate into southern Algeria. So, this has created a situation where if anything happens in Mali, Algeria will try to meddle. If anything happens in Algeria, sometimes Malian officials will try to bring about settlement as long as it's affiliated with the Tuaregs. So it's a conflict of real interest here. So from the independence era, during the Algiers War of Independence, France, now that was when France dropped a lot of nuclear weapon and all the war crimes and all of that. We're not going to be talking about that right here. Between 1954 to 1962, Mali, then still called the Sudanese Republic, they supported the FLN. Malian territory was used as a staging ground for operation against French forces. This created a bond that lasted for decades. So during Algeria's fight for independence, Mali gave them shelter. They gave them everything they needed. And the relationship lasted for a very long time because the Algerians were grateful at the time. Now, here's where the Tuareg question comes in. On both sides, there are Tuaregs. Now, and something is very, very clear here that affects both states. Mali will never allow the Algerian Tuaregs to call for independence in Algeria. According to some analysts, they said Algeria is not interested in a Tuareg insurrection in Mali, even if the results we are seeing on the ground is different. Now, they said this type of ideology, it would affect Algeria's own territorial integrity. Like I said, the result we have on the ground is showing something different. Now, after the 2012 rebellion, they call it the Tuareg rebellion in northern Mali, all right? when Tuareg separatist and Islamist armed groups took control of the north, Algeria stepped in as a mediator. The result was a 2015 Ojas Accord for peace and reconciliation in Mali, signed in Algiers. And what was it designed to? Now, before we talk about the Ojas Accord, at this point in time, the Malian government was nothing better than shambolic. It was the worst government I have ever seen in my life. I promise you. Like, journalists were literally telling the Malian president what to do. Have you negotiated with this terrorist group? Have you negotiated with this terrorist group? You said you were going to negotiate with this terrorist group. Why haven't you negotiated? It was the worst leadership arrangement the world has ever seen. Nothing is coming close to that presidential authority, that architecture they have in Mali, which was constructed by France to submission the state of Mali, further plunder the gold they have. In some spheres, you hear that France had, some tons. According to the information where they said they have over 4,000 tons of gold. And yet, they don't have a good mine over there. So, this whole arrangement of insecurity was to make African states concede. But that is not the story for today. Now, what was discussed in the Ojas Accord? That Mali will grant autonomy to northern regions. If you understand what that means, that Mali will integrate former terrorists into the listen to this. That Mali will grant autonomy to northern regions. This was that so-called Ojas Accord that you must have been hearing. That Mali will reintegrate former terrorists into state security structures. It's right here. It's documented. So you have somebody like Abu Zaza or whatever they call him coming back to become a Malian officer. This is what the Ojas Accord was all about. And at that time, the president of Mali was not a president, and I repeat, it was so weak to the point that they were dictating the terms of engagement to him, and he was following like a moron. Excuse my French. Now, they said Mali was going to address economic grievances in the north. Listen and listen well. They said Mali was going to address economic grievances in the north. But the insecurity in the north at the time. Now, I want to explain that particular part of the accord to you. That Mali was going to address economic grievances in the north. But it is in this same north that you have artisanal mining, insecurity, where Malian forces were not permitted to enter by French forces at the time. Are we together? French forces did not permit the Malian forces to enter northern Mali. But they are saying that the economic grievances in the north will be addressed by the Malian state at the time. So meaning the foreign states were going to be taking gold, natural gas from the Taudenitz Basin, and they were going to be getting other mineral resources like lithium from the north. Tapped and untapped. Ship labor, artisanal mining, they pack it and they take it away. A lot of blast was going on there. That is why you see that a lot of sodium cyanide still continues to enter this region through illegal routes. So they are now telling the states, we will take the resources in the north. The north will not benefit anything called Mali, but you will use resources of Mali to take care of the north. Taxpayers' money will be used to rehabilitate the terrorists, and you will now reintegrate them into the security architecture of Mali. The same thing is going on in Nigeria right now, where you hear that repentant Boko Haram are being integrated into the military. So when you look at the whole architecture, you can see the proximity. It exists almost among every West African state that is really, really battling insecurity as we speak. When people tell you about the G5, Chad, Nigeria, Niger, you know, Benin Republic, at that time, this whole rehabilitation of terrorists was going on. And this, if you look at this entire region and Cameroon, this architecture was almost enforced on them. And if you don't follow this architecture, what will happen to you? We won't give you funds. We won't give you aids. And you know the end result, more insecurity. Because the people that fund are the people that dictate the terms. The people that fund the insecurity are the ones that dictate the terms of engagement. Now, so they are telling Mali to address the economic grievances of the north. It's like in Nigeria, taking the oil in the south of Nigeria to take care of the north. When you have gold being mined by northerners, like this construct was made to submission West Africa as should I call it a colony of the West? Not until the AES decided to take their sovereignty into their own hands. Now, they said Mali must furthermore preserve territorial unity. So that means with all this problem, you must always negotiate. You must reconcile. When you are being punched, being slapped, PKM is used against your forces, you have to continue to preach peace. Let me give you a mirror image. In Nigeria, you will hear that the defense, you hear these people most of the time say things like, you must harmonize these bandits with yourself. Don't call them terrorists. They are have you heard things like that before? This was what the Ojas Accord was all about. Now let's go into the Ojas Accord itself. The blueprint for the Ojas Accord was designed in Paris. It wasn't designed in Algeria. Algeria was just the next door proxy to project that plan. They had a puppet in place. Now, do you know why your election is being rigged? So that people that will permit this terrorism from every angle and every sector will be in place, will be in key position, and they will submission the country. There is nothing you can do, even if the election is being rigged. Now, when you hear the statement from France, go and look at every statement they've made. They always ask a question. When are they going to return back to democracy? Democracy, returning to democracy is like returning to everything you are going against, because it will be re-implemented. And this time, it will be in a devastating fashion. Now, this was no charity, actually. The claimed interest for Algeria at the time was national security. They said a stable Mali means a stable southern Algerian border. A fragmented Mali with independent Tuareg risks the same fragmentation spreading across the north or across the south of Algeria, which we have seen in Algeria. We've seen people from Ashoclef saying that they want to be independent. As we speak to you, Algeria is battling a lot of secessionist war within our state. So now, you see, the issue in Mali was designed by certain individuals because of certain roles that this destabilizing agent played in destabilizing Libya. This so-called Hazard name that you hear from left to right was a promise for the Tuareg population that destabilized Libya. They call them rebels. You call them terrorists, ladies and gentlemen. Now, according to information between 2021 and 2022, 2 changes in government occurred in Mali. August 2020, Assimi Goïta took power. Then after some time, Assimi Goïta felt like, okay, we just need to take power and maybe these people will get serious. And they will know that the Malian people are truly suffering. And the problems of the Malians need to be addressed. Then he gave power back to civilian. And they returned to the same problem. It's even doubled. Then Assimi Goïta took power. He took the first power on August 2020, the second time in May 2021. Now, this May 21 coup now brought about the creation of the transitional administration. Algeria did not endorse the transitions. The Malian authority denoted this. Now, immediately, General Sadio Camara at the time, who was very, very pivotal to the coup at the time, he proposed that Mali needs to change their security architecture totally. And at the time, they ended the French military presence. Operation Barkhane was concluded in 2022. They literally told the French forces to leave. The French forces have left before. But there was a strategy that brought about the return of the French forces. You understand the strategy. If you've been following the story in the Sahel, you know the strategy that brings them back even when they tell you they are leaving. So you beg for them to come back again. It's just a way that it's just like they know that their presence is now becoming obvious, that people are beginning to look at them like occupying forces. So they tell you they are leaving. And when, they leave, you beg them to come back. Because when they leave, the insecurity will escalate. So why this? Then General Sadio Camara brought about another Air Force general in Mali. They brought the idea of the Russian Wagner at the time that was very, very effective in Central African Republic at the time. Now, Operation Barkhane ended. The administration of General Assimi Goïta, they withdrew from the United Nations mission called MINUSMA. They brought in Russian security partners, African Corps, formerly named Wagner's, and the result was instantaneous. The Russian African Corps hit the ground running. Wagner at the time, they were they were formidable. Ladies and gentlemen, they picked up the pace from the central Mali. They battered their way through the north, and they were stopped in Tinzawantin. It was unlike anything you've ever seen. Ukrainian forces were there to help the terrorists and all of that, if not for the external help, for intelligence, for reconnaissance and all of that. Maybe the entire terrorists in northern Mali would have been destroyed by the Wagners and the Malian forces that were working together with them at the time. We all knew what happened. And it was glorified by certain people. If they say that their main objective in Mali for MINUSMA, for drone base in Agadez, for all this storyline, why did you glorify the same people you came to fight against? Just immediately after you were told to leave. So Algeria opposed these moves. Withdrawal of MINUSMA, security partnership with Russia, expelling French forces. Algeria said that they don't want a private military presence near their border. They said it was unacceptable. Algeria went further. It called on the United Nations Security Council to sanction states that rely on private military company at the time. Now, this was understood by everyone that it was a direct message to Mali. Now, in December 2023, Mali recalls its ambassador from Ojas. The stated reason, Algeria held meeting with Tuareg armed groups. Now, this was the reason why Mali recalls its ambassadors from Ojas. The reason, Algeria had meeting with Tuareg armed groups, their leaders, without consulting with Bamako. That was in 2023 December, which Mali described as interference in internal state affairs. In January 2024, Mali announced its withdrawal from the 2015 Ojas Accord. They formally terminated the accord. Now, in late 2024, Mali transitional government accused Algeria of harboring and supporting terrorist elements in the Sahel. All right? Now, at this point, the relationship was frozen. It wasn't severed. It wasn't completely out of the way. Now, at that point, Algeria was still trying to, what is going on in Zimbabwe. I'll come back with that information. I'll check. So you can send the information to me on TikTok. I think I have you on my TikTok account. I'll work on it. So the relationship was frozen. It wasn't severed. No shot was being fired. Then the next round of the conflict came. This event turned from a diplomatic freeze, it became a complete chaos. Now, at approximately midnight, March 31st, 2025, near the town of Tinzawantin. Now, when we say Tinzawantin, we are talking about Malian territory. Tinzawantin does not exist in Algeria. It exists in Mali. A Malian Bayraktar Akinci drone, Turkish-made reconnaissance, strike-capable UAV with ISR capability, was destroyed by Algerian air defense system in Tinzawantin. Now, Algeria's account. Algeria claimed that the drone crossed into Algerian airspace. Algeria air defense system tracked the incursion with their Russian S-400 after confirming it was a military surveillance aircraft inside Algerian territory. That's what they claimed, right? Approximately 2 kilometers past the border, it was engaged and destroyed. Algeria described this as a lawful defense of sovereign airspace. Or is it a response to the whole diplomatic showdown? Mali's account. Mali claimed that the drone was operating inside Malian territory. Things are wanting to be specific. When it was shot down, Mali characterized this as an unprovoked attack on Malian military asset by a foreign state. They took the case to United Nations Security Council. Nothing happened. They took the case to International Criminal Court. It was a mess. The way the ICC handled it was a mess. Families. Now, you see, Tinzawantin sit directly between the Malian and Algerian border, right? The 2 kilometer margin could be deliberate penetration, a navigation error, a borderline case, where the exact demarcation is contested. What mattered was the response of Algeria, which was not acceptable to the Malians at the time. Now, I'm not, everywhere is data hotel now, so we're not trying to preach. We're just trying to address the issue for those who want to understand what happened and why we are talking about this Algeria-Mali relationship right now. Now, in early April 2025, after the whole Bayraktar Akinci case, the ambassador withdrawn from Bamako. All right? Algeria ambassador was withdrawn from Bamako. In April 6, 2025, the ambassador of Mali was recalled from Ojas. Immediately, Burkina Faso and Niger recalled their own ambassadors too. They call it reciprocity. If one state does something to you, the others will follow. So, on April 7, 2025, the airspace of Algeria-Mali was completely shut out. It was completely closed. If Malians sees anything Algerian in their airspace, they were going to knock it out. Do they have the capacity to knock it out? Yes, of course, they have. At that time, was it the Malian personnel that was operating those capabilities that could knock out any Algerian military craft? No. It was in control of the Russian personnel at the time. Because when you bring in these capabilities, you need time to train personnel to get up to speed with it. Algeria definitely has the capability. They buy their military armament from Russia. Russia has equally played a very good part in bringing about peace between Algeria and Mali. But Niger played the most integral role, and that was of recent. Now, during the 14-month diplomatic freeze between April 25 and April 2026, the JNIM, Al Qaeda and Islamic Maghreb, ISGS, and all of those groups like that, I'm not going to mention them because they are nothing to talk about. They intensified their action. And why was the action intensified? But some people stated that it was because of the backup and the pressure they got from Paris and Algiers to intensify the action as a consequence for the actions that was taken by Bamako at the time. They were looking at Assimi Goïta like he's just a military personnel. What does he know about governance? He's going to get enough pressure and he's going to break. But what he didn't realize at the time was that Assimi Goïta would not break. When you close one door, you're adding pressure. And pressure can burst pipes and it can make diamonds. Right now, if you take out the insecurity, Mali is diamond. Now, according to information, or at the time, Mali depended on Algeria for pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, construction materials, food products, and all whatnot. So after the breakage, everything stopped. Now, April 2026, the Algerian Foreign Minister, Ahmed Attaf, made a public statement. He reaffirmed Algeria's position on Malian territorial integrity. He made this statement. Now, that was before the April 25th attack. They made a statement, I think, on the 6th of April. To me, sometimes when I look at this whole thing, I just feel like, are these people playing with Mali or what? Now, he reaffirmed Algeria's position on Mali's territorial integrity and stated that Algeria rejects all forms of terrorism. This statement did not mention the drone incident, the Accord, or the Russian partnership. But it was the first reconciliation signal that Algiers, in over a year, projected towards Bamako. Now, direct talks between President Abdelmadjid Tebboune and Assimi Goïta at some point between April and July 2026 was established. Now, according to further reports, the result was announced on July 10th and 11th, 2026. Algeria fully lifts the ban on civilian and military flights to and from Mali. Algeria will send its ambassador back to Bamako. Mali confirmed reciprocal measures. Algeria announced a regularization process for Malian national currently in Algeria without proper documentation, a significant concession addressing a long-standing friction. For me, what I would say at this point is, it is good, highly acceptable, all right? Algeria-Mali's relationship has now returned to a functional minimum. Ambassadors going back between states, airspace now opened. Maybe, reconciliation might start between both states. Because if you look at Niger Republic, Algeria is already having some sort of economic framework with Niger, mining framework with Niger. In my opinion, this is the advice I would have given to Algeria. If you know you love Mali so much, why not create schools in northern Mali to educate this misinformed, misguided elements that are destabilizing the place? Now, some people will claim that northern Mali is not developed. How can you develop northern Mali? How? No, no. How will you develop northern Mali? Have you seen the way they behave? Have you seen the way they fly bombs up and down the place? They are not developed, but they are moving with some of the most advanced military capability. That is a statement that there is an interest in northern Mali to destabilize Mali. And we know those people that work with that, they operate with that doctrine. They don't improve the place. They don't educate the people to be able to circumnavigate this false propaganda that they push to destabilize states. The only thing they do is that they can buy you pickup trucks with AA and GPM, G50 cal and all of that. So if Algeria is really serious, we're going to see the developments in the coming days. And if they're not, that will be down to them. But this is a good minimum. At least rapports more can start from here. But the cautionary tale is this. Why is this statement coming after the complete conquest of the Tuareg insurgents in Anefis? Ladies and gentlemen, think about it. It's like before a fight, I'm betting on this guy. I'm betting on this guy. I'm supporting this guy. And it gets to a point I see that this guy is almost paralyzing this guy. And I'll be like, I'm about to start betting on this guy. Life don't work that way. So I think Algeria is like, because you cannot tell me that Algeria would just all of a sudden abandon the Tuaregs. It's not possible. So this might be a diplomatic off-ramp for what Algeria and France could not achieve on the battlefield. Because Ukrainian forces were there for this Anafis fight. They were given into... You saw what the French said during the April attack. They said they were monitoring the situation on the ground and all of that. They tried to attack Burkina Faso. They tried to attack the airport in Niamey. It all failed. Gross failure, morbid level of failure. And with 1,000 enemy KIA. In my opinion, and it doesn't affect the situation on the ground, but time will tell. Time is the biggest check and balance to everything. My own opinion is they discovered that they don't have the manpower to continue the destabilization. So pending the time we are going to groom the chickens, let us engage them in diplomacy. Have you seen the age demography of the fighters we saw in northern Mali recently? They were babies. They were literally babies. So it should raise suspicion. Why is this diplomacy coming at this point in time? We'll be monitoring the information and we'll be seeing the development. Whatever happens, we'll be bringing the information to you. And to that good person in the Andre community that said, are we aware of what is going on in Mozambique? I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'm going to exclusively break down what is going on in Mozambique. But for now, I need to do my research about the situation going on in Mozambique and make sure that I am not going to present from a biased standpoint. We want to get the neutral information first, then we'll come back and give what is going on. So families, this is where we are going to draw the curtain for today. I want to thank everybody in the community for your solidarity and support. It's been a very, very incredible period with you all. Thank you, and God bless you.